One, two, one, two. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Postcab for Cabinet Issues September 5th, 2010. And this would bring us up to date. And of course, there are some other, 2011, sorry, there are some other issues that are current, which I'll also be dealing with at today's Cabinet. Sitting Cabinet Postcab. The following matters were considered by Cabinet at the meeting held on the 5th of September 2011 as it relates to contracts. On the recommendation of the Infrastructure Subcommittee of Cabinet and the National Contracts Committee, Cabinet approved the following contracts: security services for the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries to Marksman Limited in the amount of $90,709,040 for the provision of security services to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and its facilities around the island for a period of 2 years. Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries has been using the services of private security companies in excess of 9 years to provide security for its facilities across the island and to ensure the safety of its staff and property. Bank of Jamaica General Insurance placement to Marathon Insurance Brokers Limited in the amount of $45,095,550 for the placement of the general insurance portfolio of the Bank of Jamaica for a 3-year period, September 1st, 2011 to August 31st, 2014, with the first year of the contract being recommended for the award to American Home Assurance Company and General Accident Insurance Company Limited. The existing general insurance contract expired on the 31st of August 2011, and an extension of 30 days had been sought and received to allow for the completion of the procurement process. Selective tender method, as prescribed by the GOJ Handbook of the Public Sector Procurement Procedures, was utilized to select the proposed replacement broker. Annual reports. Cabinet considered the following annual reports: Jamaica Tourist Board for 2008-2009, for Financial Sector Adjustment Company Limited for 2006-2007, 07-08, 08-09, and 09-2010, Student Loans Bureau 2008-9 and 9 and 10, Ministry of Justice 2009-2010. These annual reports will be tabled in the House of Parliament at a later date. Board appointments. Advisory Board of the National Land Agency. Cabinet approved the appointment of the following persons for the NLA for a period of 2 years, 12th of September to 2011 to 11th of September 2013. And those persons are Natalie Farrell Ross, Chair, Mr. Ethan Sinclair, Mr. Clinton Cunningham, Mr. Anthony Prendergast, and Mr. Gladstone Whitelock. Advisory Committee for the purpose relating to the Order of National Heroes. Cabinet approved the appointment of the following persons to the Advisory Committee for purpose relating to the Order of National Heroes for a period of 3 years, effective 12th of September 2011 to 11th of September 2014, and that will be chaired by the Most Honorable Sir Kenneth Hall. Request for the approval of the decision and process to outsource the activities of the Nutrition Products Limited, NPL. Cabinet approved the outsourcing of the supply of meats that were currently carried out by Nutrition Products Limited and approved the appointment of a proposed enterprise team for the purpose of overseeing the outsourcing process, which is to be done in conformity with the Government of Jamaica's procurement guidelines. Cabinet directed that the Ministry of Education, through the enterprise team and in consultation with the Ministry of Health, re-examine the nutritional content of the meats, and consideration must be given as possible to maximizing local content. The review exercise should inform the request for proposals, and Cabinet further instructed that a comprehensive assessment and valuation of the assets of Nutrition Holdings Limited be done in preparation for the divestment of the assets of the company. The proposal to divest the activities of the NPL is intended to ensure the provision of affordable, nutritious, and balanced meal products for students while promoting a more efficient and economic operation of the company. This will entail the operation and management of the traditional cook lunch component of the school feeding program on a regional base rather than from individual schools, which is expected to reduce operational costs and allow for innovations in the lunch product and package. The proposed outstanding process of the company will be managed by the enterprise team comprising of the following persons: Mr. Littleton Shirley, Chair, Mr. Leslie Campbell, Mr. Errol Powell, Ms. Michelle Ford, Ms. Stacey Robinson, Ms. Barbara Allen, and Ms. Latoya Harris. The third China-Caribbean Economic and Trade Cooperation Forum in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, which was held September 12th and 13th, which has gone, as you know, Cabinet approved that a number of ministers, led by Minister Tufton, Minister Bartlett, Minister Henry, and Minister J.C. Hutchinson, attended that conference. And at that conference, there were 3 agreements that were to be signed at the forum. These are the Port of Spain Declaration, the Common Initiative on Agriculture and Fisheries Cooperation between China and Caribbean countries, and the Planning Consultancy Cooperation Framework Agreement between the Development Bank of Jamaica and the China Development Bank Corporation. This forum is held every 3 to 5 years and is geared towards the strengthening of economic and trade between China and the Caribbean, and is an important initiative by the People's Republic of China. The forum was designed to signal China's continued economic interest in the region and to deepen commercial ties between China and the Caribbean, and to bring together government officials and businessmen from China and Caribbean states. A more detailed report on the outcome of that visit will be made available when the report is submitted to Cabinet. On another issue, which has been in the news since last week, Wednesday, is really in relation to the taxation on energy drinks. And I will now clarify the matter of reintroduction of taxation on energy drinks, which has been at the center of the recent discussions. The term reintroduction relates to the issue of taxation on energy drinks and was not intended to convey that the previous order introduced by Gazette on December 2010 is no longer in effect. To the contrary, the tax on energy drinks is currently being administered under order which was introduced and gazetted in December 2010. A cabinet decision was taken to introduce a new order which will adopt the definition of energy drinks used by the Ministry of Health. This definition differs from the definition in the previous order insofar as it's not limited to caffeine content but also makes reference to a defined list of herbs, amino acids, and other ingredients, either alone or with caffeine. Until the new order is gazetted and enters into force, the existing order of December 2010 still applies, which means that the SCT that has been charged will continue to be charged and collected. Discussions will be held with the main players and key stakeholders on this matter for further clarification, for which I instructed only this morning after consultations with the Ministry of Finance. And clarifications that may be required can be referred to the Tax Policy Division within the Ministry of Finance. So if it is that the word reintroduction was used last week by me and taken in a different context, then I will hope that this will clarify it for the distributors and the producers of these energy drinks. So in essence, the gazetted order of 2010 continues to apply, and in terms of the redefinition, that is a matter that will be put into order as soon as it is concluded with the Ministry of Health. And I am confident that that new redefinition will make the playing field balanced based on the utterances I heard from the GMA in relation to imported as against locally manufactured energy drinks. So I hope that that clarifies that, and I apologize sincerely for the word reintroduction that may have been used in a wrong context last week. You know, I'm one that always is quick to get in trouble and quick to apologize. Let me say a few words on the hotly discussed acronym JEEP. And I know it has been discussed even up to yesterday in Parliament, and we saw what happened there. The government of Jamaica is acutely aware of the urgent need to create jobs in the economy and has been actively laying the foundation to do so despite the recession. It must be remembered, before jobs are created, the government needs to attract investment, both local and overseas. As such, we have to create the right macroeconomic environment to do so, and we have been seeing many positive developments in this area so far, including and not limited to reducing interest rates to historic levels, stabilizing the exchange rate with the current band for the longest period in over a decade, stabilizing inflation numbers, and restructuring our debt through the debt exchange, which has been lauded internationally. The government has been able to achieve this in the context, as is known, of the worst global recession in modern history and the legacy of the PNP administration over the 18 years, which we all know left us in tatters. The leader of our opposition has announced a Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, or JEEP. However, no details have been forthcoming on this program. You will recall, less than 24 hours after JEEP was unveiled to the public, PNP Chairman Robert Pickersgill, in a radio interview after being embarrassed because of his fumbling and stumbling, as his interviewers sought to get answers to their questions about JEEP, he then said, and I quote, "JEEP was Portia's baby, and she would flesh out all the details and answer all the questions." Well, we are still waiting on that. In Parliament yesterday, Portia Simpson-Miller and the opposition was provided an ideal opportunity to accept the debate on JEEP. But they ran from the issue, as they have been doing. As I said yesterday, when asked about the opposition's dodgy stance in Parliament, it was downright pathetic and clearly showed that the JEEP has no engine. They are making a mockery of Parliament to say that they cannot discuss a matter that was raised on the political platform. You would recall that when the progressive agenda was announced, I called for a debate, and I reiterate that call for a national debate on this and other important matters. When I made the call a few weeks ago, I didn't see it take much traction. I think it barely got mentioned in the media. I'm calling again on the media, the National Debates Commission. This is the prime example of why we need these debates. And we must have these debates outside of the election season. The world, Jamaica, is in a very serious predicament. And it is only right and just that we get these debates so that the persons who are going to make decisions in terms of who governs this country going forward can be well informed and exposed to not only the policies but also the programs and the plans by the respective political parties. The reality of the Jamaican economic situation is that we have to seriously begin the process of balancing our national budget. No longer are we going to be able to continue to borrow or inflate our way out of our problems. This is not a time to run with it. The US and Europe, like Jamaica and most other countries of the post-recession world, has to adopt tight fiscal responsibility measures. Fanciful dreams and acronyms have no basis in today's reality. The government again has called for a debate in Jeep to begin next week in Parliament, which the opposition is trying to derail at all cost, including saying last night that we would be debating alone. Once again, as they indicated, they will not participate in this debate. It is therefore showing that there is no substance to this proposal. It is further felt strongly that the reason why there can be no details or substance to this is because the PNP is protecting their leader from facing the questions and having to speak to the issue, this and others. And I'm saying that you can run, but you cannot hide, because at some point it is going to come to the fore that we need to have not partisan political debate, but debate on the real issues in terms of how and what can be done to sustain the growth that is planned for this country, and the signs are already there. So I say to the media and to everybody, let these big debates begin now. The sooner the better, and then we will see and get an opportunity to explore who it is that has the policies and the programs, and who it is that can take this country where we need to go. And I'm confident that it will show clearly that we have the better personnel, we have the better policies, and that we are the best people to run this country at this time. While we speak about run with it, and I want to put this in perspective. The JDIP program continues to be under fire from the opposition, including threatening to go to China. It is very interesting, and I'm not revealing this information as tit for tat. I'm trying to follow up on my pronouncements last week about JDIP, where in 2001, and you'll recall that 2002 was an election year, the then government introduced a national road improvement plan. This plan was financed by deferred financing, in layman's terms, off the books. It started at 3.2 billion when it was conceived, and by the time it was finished, it was budgeted for $6 billion. 94 roads were initially targeted, that later ended up at 176 roads. The allocation of that $6 billion was 94% to PNP constituencies and 6% to JLP constituencies. The number of roads totaled 176, 156 for the PNP, 20 for the JLP. More interestingly, the number of MPs benefiting, 36 PNP MPs and 6 JLP MPs. You'll recall that there are 60 seats in Parliament. So you can clearly see that this was designed along partisan lines, where these 36 seats were targeted seats for the 2002 election. You'll also recall the statement of the Run With It, which led to the Run With It government, which is why we are in the situation that we are now. It is quite similar to the JDIP arrangements, where 2 major contractors, local contractors, were awarded the contract for this $6 billion. One 90%, of the value, and the other a token 10%. So in essence, you could almost say 1. And then that contractor subcontracted out the work to other local subcontractors. These contractors were pressured to start the work prematurely without having the necessary equipment and, by admission of the National Works Agency, the necessary quality control measures in place. Ladies and gentlemen, then came the 2002 general elections, which we know the result of. And many of these roads were left unfinished, and many never ever started. It is therefore very clear to me that the JDIP program and the roads that were selected for the JDIP program, many of which are some of these very same roads, were and have been put on the JDIP program along with other roads which were never on the program, which have been in disrepair for over 2 decades. So what I want to clearly indicate is, while we speak about JDIP being a political program or partisan program, I stand by my words that there is great justification in relation to the roads that are being done now, the projects, the bridges, the Christiana Development Road, which is a road that was conceived by the PNP and not implemented. And we know why it was implemented. But more so than ever, if you live in a glass house, you must not throw stones. And I want to show you, because it's not PNP alone can get information, I can get information too, that the classification of the roads were done by party. People's National Party, number of projects 156, number of MPs 36. Jamaica Labour Party, number of projects 20, number of MPs 6. Totaling 176 projects and 42 roads. They went as far as to find little orange and little green for color code it. And this is a government document at the time that is referring not to members of parliament elected in their own right by the people of Jamaica, but being categorized as political parties. Who are the players? Let us not forget. Deferred financing, a creation of the Ministry of Finance and the then Minister Omar Davies, who is now the Minister, Mr. Bobby Pickersgill, and Mr. Peter Phillips. The 3 hypocrites that running up and down all over Jamaica criticizing JDIP, when here it is in live and living color. I can assure the people of Jamaica that every road that is being done now has in all the quality control measures, because no international company is going to come here and allow any generalship with the Jamaican contractors or Jamaican people, because they have their reputation to protect. So here is a project, and I encourage the media to go out there and dig down the NWA and the Ministry of Transport for further information, to get comparisons of the amount of roads that are on this, that are now on the JDIP program, the amount of roads that started and never finished, and the amount of roads that were promised during the election period 2001-2002, which up to now don't start. But they were able to find or allocate $6 billion to hoodwink the people of Jamaica in relation to election promises with the run with it budget. They are all hypocrites. All hypocrites. And we must remember that they were there once and mash up Jamaica. And they must not be allowed to come back with acronyms and false promises to try and mislead the people of this country. Questions?
Okay, this does not necessarily relate to your comments earlier, but my information is that there was an emergency cabinet meeting today. Could you give us an idea what this meeting was called for?
Cabinet meeting, emergency, well, I wouldn't say emergency, planned cabinet meeting coming out of Monday on two matters. Update cabinet on the ongoing discussions with the IMF and some proposed talks that are to take place at the end of this week. And secondly, to update us on the CAP negotiation, Clarendon Aluminum Partners. Cabinet on the CAP matter gave some instructions to the negotiating team. Based on where the negotiation it is now, it would not be wise of me to disclose that, but an announcement in relation to that will be made in due course once the negotiations have reached a stage where an announcement can be made. In terms of the IMF, basically just to get some cabinet directives in terms of some of the issues that are going to be discussed and to appraise us of where those discussions are. And of course, we all know the sticking issues which are being addressed and dealt with.
Minister, you have been very passionate about the NARIP program that was implemented by the former People's National Party administration, and you have justified to some extent reasons for this administration and the JDIP dealing with the current roads that they're dealing with now in terms of the ratio. But my question to you, Minister, is how long will the people of this country have to put up with this kind of partisan issue coming out of the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party, when in fact there are many persons in this country that do not assign themselves to any political party, whether PNP or GLP? And is it the case that if you are not assigned or you are not aligned to a political party, then clearly your roads or whatever it is, benefit that it is that you are supposed to receive, that you will not get it?
Very good question, and let us start on the basis that despite the controversy that the People's National Party has tried to bring this JDIP program into, that all the polls that have been done indicate that the majority of the people of this country believe that JDIP is a good program. Now, when I bring up the NARIP issue, I'm not bringing it up to justify or do a tit for tat, you know. What I'm explaining to you is that there are roads that have been neglected for decades. Therefore, $400 million is not going to fix every road in Jamaica in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. The estimate is over $2 billion, and that doesn't include roads that are not under the control of the National Works Agency. So it is a fact that because of the situation of the roads, the deterioration of the roads, despite the promise of pothole-free by 2003 by hypocrite Pickersgill, you have a situation where there is more roads and more requirement for fixing of roads than there is money. And therefore expectations are high and great. And when one sees their neighbor's road being fixed and don't see their road being fixed, then it creates anxiety, frustration, anger, etc., etc. And maybe it is that the expectations are just too high for the JDIP program of the $400 million. And maybe it is that in all that we are doing, we have to try and find some more fiscal space to deal with some more funds specifically for infrastructure, not roads, river training, bridges. I have bridges in my constituency that are condemned, but we don't have the money to replace them. So what I'm saying, I accept what you're saying, and in no way am I trying to say that because the PNP gave 94% of $6 billion that this government is doing the same. What we are doing is dealing with the roads that are required in a constituency as the most urgent roads. Yes? And therefore, that is where we are. But again, let me reiterate that I find it difficult, because the fact is that if you are doing a road in a constituency, which is a major thoroughfare for $200 or $300 million, which is a major thoroughfare for people who deal with school, business, etc., do you not do that road and do 10 roads at $20 million? 10 parochial roads, off the beaten track roads at 20 million. In other words, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because that major thoroughfare is a critical element to the daily lives of people in and out of that particular constituency. But guess what? Just off of that road, you have some tributary roads that car can't even go down it. So I say to you that water more than flour. And the fact of the matter is that $400 million is a drop in the bucket in terms of what is required. JDIP is a well-conceived plan in terms of the objectives of it, but the expectations of JDIP are enormous and can never be fulfilled with $400 million. Right. No, that's why I want to make sure and clarify that. But it's important for information that, based on my utterances last week, that I go back to this document, because what I'm trying to say to you is that here is something that was implemented in a rush, in a hurry, for a specific reason, which was 2002 election. Not well planned, not well executed, and basically abandoned after 2002. And therefore, not only some of these roads got attention, but a lot did not. And a lot that did not is what is being dealt with now.
So, Minister, I appreciate you calling for the PNP to come and discuss the policies of the government. JDIP has been an issue that the PNP.
Let the debate begin. So absolutely, and instead of the PNP running and hiding, put in front of this government or in front of the Debates Commission the areas that you want to debate. And I'm giving you undertaking from government, on behalf of the government, that any subject, any topic, we are prepared to debate minister to opposition member, one-on-one. And that includes Sister P.
So when was this decided, Minister Vaz? Because this has been an issue that they've been calling on for the longest while, and it,
well,
it seems as JDIP.
First of all, let us be very clear. The Contractor General has already published on his site, his website, the JDIP programs, contractors, etc., etc. So it cannot be that the PNP continues to speak about the lack of information. We live in a society today that nothing, especially based on our agreements with the multilaterals, this is not deferred financing where you do it on your own and hide it in your drawer. Everything has to come to the fore, the public bodies act, etc., etc. So there is no information that if a minister don't want to give you, you can't get through the appropriate channels. It is a flimsy excuse because they have nothing. They have beaten Manhattan Dudas to death. Right? And the fact of the matter is that they have come in 4 years with not one recommendation, one suggestion, nothing. And the first one they bring to the table, after the progressive agenda, stillborn progressive agenda, the first one they bring, Jeep. We are now Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all you can hear from them. One man said, the leader is a leader, baby, she will deal with it. And the other one said that there is a planned press conference, but you can't tell us when. And that is a government in waiting.
One final question, Minister Vaz. Have you started campaigning?
Me?
the Jamaica Labour Party? Have you started campaigning?
I think that campaign is going on in certain constituencies, certain areas, different people doing different things. But in terms of the launch of a national campaign, I would say that has not come as yet. We have conference in November, and I believe, just like what the PNP has done in terms of energizing their base, the program between now and November is to do your divisional conferences, etc. But I'm sure that the officer core of the party, the general secretary, campaign director, they will speak to that. Remember that I am no longer officer, so I really am not in the loop.
Interesting that you mentioned Officer Corps, because it was a Jamaica Labour Party deputy leader that said the campaign has started. So I just wanted clarification.
Well, the fact of the
on
matter,
that.
you know, remember, deputy leader responsible for your council. Maybe the campaign has started in terms of the Minister Shaw, who you're speaking about, who is a deputy leader. He has a by-election, he has a nomination day on Friday. Again, good topic. Good topic. I read in dismay that 2 days before nomination, you cannot get a confirmation from the People's National Party if they are contesting the by-election or not contesting the by-election. They have not run an election. They ran by-election and they ran one more. Got 2 beatings and they have evaded the poll ever since. One part of the party said they're running, the other party said they're not, the other part not running. Now I thought that political parties were formed to campaign, win elections, and go to power. This particular opposition has sought to go to power through the courthouse. That has not succeeded. And what do you have? You have an opposition that is out there running up and down, but when time comes to go and test the mood of the people, despite they said that they are how many points ahead in poll, etc., etc., they 2 days before nomination can't tell you whether they're running a by-election or not running a by-election. That is what you want as an alternative government? The people of Jamaica have to wake up, man. We have to wake up. We have to wake up despite all the challenges and all the problems. We have got to wake up. They're a puppy show. And if you don't believe me, just examine the facts that I have outlined to you. Take off my political hat and put it in perspective on your own. The people of Craighead Division, I read in the paper this morning, are up in arms, the PNP supporters, because they want to contest the election. That's what they do, support a political party for. To win so them can brag on the JLP, or the JLP win and brag on them. That is how they operate in their communities and their districts. And they have not been able to go to an election despite 4 or 5 by-elections that have been held, both parish council and MP elections. So again, let the debates begin. Let us start to give the people of this country an opportunity to really examine, after you cut out all of the huff and the puff and all of the manat and the doodles and all of the distractions. Let us go down to the core issues of what a government's responsibility is, and let us evaluate and give the people an opportunity to evaluate the plans, the programs, and the future plans for this country.
Yeah.
And my commitment on behalf of the government is that as quick as the Debates Commission and the media houses can come together and put that in place, I recommend it to start. And guess what? It may require 2 rounds of debate. The way the world is moving now and what is happening in the world, what happened today and what obtains today can be changed in a matter of hours. So the fact is that you can have 1 set of debates now based on the current issues. And as the time goes by between now and when a general election is due, they can be done tailor-made to the issues of the particular time. And I'm encouraging the media houses. And don't tell me about money. The big excuse always about money. You find money to do all kind of things. Where there's a will, there's a way. we can work collectively to make sure it is properly arranged, properly funded, and properly executed. So the Debates Commission, my charge is, that is what you are set up to do. Let us get it going. National debates, regional debates, community debates, debates of every shape and form, so that the people of this country can make a calculated, educated guess and decide the future of this country.
Minister, during the 70s, Minister, there was a program.
I was just barely born that time, so I can't tell you too much about that.
Yeah, but Minister, there was a program commonly referred to as a crash program. Under the current IMF agreement arrangement we have at this time, can we as a country afford any emergency employment program that would be running
The answer
it?
to that is categorically no, and everybody knows that. Even the PNP knows that. The bottom line is that where we are and the agreements and arrangements that we are in does not allow for anything that has been done in the past and gotten away with. We don't have that luxury. That is off the table, off the chart. And you know, I hear, but sometimes I get so frustrated, I hear the opposition saying that they can't tell you about the renegotiating of the IMF until they get into power and see what the agreement says. The bottom line is that the opposition have all right to seek information and get information, not only from the government, but from other sources and parties in relation to current agreements. Nothing is secret. But guess what? If you ask me, I don't believe that neither Peter Phillips, Omar Davies, or Portia Simpson Miller could find the IMF office, much less to go sit down with them to renegotiate anything based on their track record. So again, fancy talk, hot air.
So, Minister, you're suggesting that the Jeep hasn't got any steering wheel and
the Jeep don't have an engine. As a matter of fact, if the Jeep did even
Minister,
start, I think it crashed already.
Minister, my next question to you, Minister, final question, Minister, is that some time ago you promised something on the PBCJ board. Can you just give us an update on that,
Prime
please,
Minister has
Thank
signed
you.
off. It is now with the leader of the opposition for her signature. The Governor General has made the recommendations, and it is in the process. I would expect that that should come back possibly in time for Cabinet on Monday. But the process is where it needs to be in terms of the recommendations. Prime Minister has signed off, and we're waiting on leader of the opposition, who I'm sure will respond in due course.
Minister, you had cleared up the air regarding CAP, but the reopening of Kaiser, am I correct? Kirkvine, sorry. Any word on that?
Minister Mullins will have to speak more in detail to that. That is also being pursued, but not at a stage where any announcement can be made yet.
Another issue as it relates to the infamous JD program. Minister, I have been taking note of some of the signs that have been set up right across, well, let's say Kingston and outside of Kingston. Can you just give an indication what may have been the reason why some of these projects, we were given notice, and yet a year after, it's a non-starter?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that in detail. If you give me specifics in terms of somebody, I can get information on it.
Helsham Main Road, to be exact. That's one of the...
You live out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and thousands of others travel.
But you have to protect it. That's a, you know they always say passing Christian picnic for, so I understand. I can check that for you, Mr. Rowan. I'll check that for you. And any other road. But I can get an overall comment on that for you from Mr. Patrick Wong in terms of the mechanics of that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, man, use the mic, man.
Thank you, Minister. The energy drinks, I just wanted clarification on that. Is it that the new tax is not yet implemented? And if so,
no.
When?
Tax,
what's the date?
The order has been in place from 2010. Mm-hmm. What is to be done now is the redefinition of the ingredients to make sure, because the argument was by the energy drink persons that the definition had shortcomings.
Okay.
And therefore it didn't affect some, it affected some, etc. So that is being addressed now based on what the Ministry of Health used as their description in allowing them to import the drinks or to produce the drinks.
So that dialogue has to take place first.
Well, the
before-
bottom line is that the Ministry of Health is to send it to the Ministry of Finance. But what I've instructed, just so that out of an abundance of caution, since there has been some concerns, is that the meetings take place with the tax department, the tax division of the Ministry of Finance, just to make sure if there's any other issues that may not have been detected, that they are...
And as such, no date yet for its
Well,
implementation.
I would say that it would be in short order, because I know that the information from Ministry of Health is either there or almost complete. So I wouldn't expect that to hold it up. Yeah, you've been there waiting a long time round the back. I know.
Minister, Lime has taken the Prime Minister, who is the Minister with the responsibility ultimately for telecommunications,
Yes.
and the Fair Trading Commission to court. Is the government on good standing as it relates to the decision to approve the...
Well, what Lime has asked for is a judicial review. As you know, the Prime Minister acted based on the specific Section 17. The FTC also has the right to challenge it as well, despite the Prime Minister's decision. There were some issues with that in terms of indemnities, etc., which have been sorted out now. So it's very possible that the FTC may also do. And then, of course, the judicial review will be held, and the court gives its final ruling on that.
So you just await the outcome?
Sure,
Nothing
sure.
else?
We are
Right.
proceeding based on the Prime Minister's decision under the Act.
Minister, did I hear you correctly that the Parliament will go ahead with that private member's motion to debate
Sure.
the merit of Jeep next week?
Well, I think it will probably start next week. I have to speak to Minister Honis, but the indications from coming out of Parliament yesterday was that the PNP would not be taking part in the debate, but that the debate would be going. They said that we'll be debating it on our own. Quite ironic that is their proposal, and we are going to have to give them the...
But in light of, that there are several private members' motion that they have lagged on the order paper for several
Well,
weeks, and now interestingly, this one is getting debated quickly.
I have to agree with my colleague, Minister Honis, when he stood up in Parliament yesterday and said there can be nothing that is more urgent and in need of attention as jobs. And therefore, if it is that a proposal is coming from whether the PNP or anybody else that can help us to create some jobs, especially in light of the recession and the loss of jobs, etc., then that has to be a national priority. And therefore, there can be no other private member motion that will be more important than the possibility of finding solutions to the creation of jobs. And therefore, all that has to happen is the PNP have to drive them Jeep to Parliament next week and come and negotiate and debate. Crime?
That one never got debated.
Well, I think crime is on the right side of the fence. I think crime is on the way down, even in Spanish Down.
Minister, PBCJ Live, so there's a question coming in from a member of the public. Do you think PostCab is being used effectively as a tool for government business, or has it been too frequently used on the political platform?
Government is politics, and politics is government. And therefore, it's hard to deal with government business with an opposition that claims to be your worst nightmare and not have to deal with politics. Because the fact of the matter is that government policies and programs are being politicized by the very opposition. So if I don't deal with them, you're going to hear that I'm not doing my job. So once again, you can't win, you can't lose. But today specifically, although I try, today specifically I've dealt with some issues pertaining to government policies and programs, and dealt with the politics that is being played, and highlighted the hypocrisy in it. And I can tell you, I don't think I'm the first, and I don't think I'm the last. And Danny Buck of blessed memory comes to mind very quickly and easily. So that question that has been posed, I'm sure it's coming straight out of PNP headquarters.
Minister, Just
Yes, sir.
finally, has the
I don't want to get in no more trouble, you know, so don't ask me no question that will get me in any
has
problem.
the
Yeah?
cabinet discussed
Yeah.
a new job creation strategy in recent times?
That is a continuous discussion. A continuous discussion
see.
based on the trying to revive the bauxite industry, trying to continue the successes in tourism. Minister Tufton trying to continue the ICT investment programs. That is first and foremost on this government's mind. And I can tell you that whereas we have bottomed out in terms of the harsh effects of the recession, we are clearly showing a trajectory in the right direction, including jobs. So despite all that you hear, I heard Minister Tufton say 15,000 new jobs up to the end of December. No information so far up until now based on Statting and PIOJ dealing with some other matters. But all I'm saying to you is that every day, every breath that we breathe in cabinet has to be, because that is the end all and be all.
One final, Minister, the Caymanas project. We haven't heard much about it in recent times.
Being revised as we speak. It is, Minister Tufton has advised us that it is something that is being looked at, re-looked at, and tweaked, and that in due course he will make an announcement in terms of what the situation is. But again, that is tied into some of the announcement that he has made in terms of the jobs or the prospective jobs that can be created coming out of that. I will get copies made and sent out later on today to the media houses. But you can get a picture. You can get. Well, Minister Horn is the leader of government business. I think what will have to be shown from our side, since it's not our proposal, is why Jeep is a myth and why it can never be. But we have the basic fundamentals. We know what is that. But we know that it would take money to implement a G program, and we know that there is no money, and we can explain why there is no money and why there won't be any money. So the bottom line is, instead of us having to do that, just encourage the PNP to come with little specifics they have, so we can have an intelligent discussion on the matter in Parliament.
So if they're not interested, bye-bye.
I can't answer that. That is from Minister Horn, is the leader of government business. I'm just a little, barely a front bencher, middle bencher. Minister Tufton made an indication on that. Again, coming back to your point, there was a high-powered team of ministers down there, including the Prime Minister with the chairman of China Exim Bank. We spent 2 days in Montego Bay last week, including visiting the site. The prospects are very good. It seems as if the Chinese Exim Bank is prepared to look at it, and they are prepared to look at it on a timely manner in order to allow for a project that has been directly affected by the recession to possibly start within the next 6 to 9 months. So again, born out of the previous government. Born out of the previous government, implemented by this government, which is the usual case.
Minister, finally, the retroactive sums for public servants, public sector workers, will it be paid as promised this month?
Everything that was committed is on stream, and the negotiations, as I indicated, continue with the IMF going into this weekend here.
So as
of right now, everything remains. Minister Williams, if there's any change, he will address that. But everything remains the same.